Hey there everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we'll be looking at homeostasis. This is the part 1 by the way, part 2 will be coming soon as well. IGCSE biology, let's get started. So what is homeostasis? Homeostasis. It is basically the maintenance of a constant internal environment. That is really key. It's a maintenance of a constant internal environment. It helps your cells to work as efficiently as possible, such as keeping a constant temperature of around 37 degrees, which helps enzymes in your body to work at their optimum rate. This is thermoregulation. Then we have keeping a constant amount of water so that your cells are not damaged by absorbing or losing too much water by osmosis. That is osmoregulation. And also such as keeping a constant concentration of glucose so that there's always enough fuel for respiration. You guessed it right, that's glucoregulation. Homeostasis looks at the control of internal conditions such as your temperature and blood glucose concentration within set limits. And I'll be happy to tell you guys that for IGCSE, we'll only be looking at temperature and glucose. We don't need to look at osmoregulation for IGs, so let's get started. First, we have glucoregulation. In glucoregulation, the pancreas and the liver are the organs that help in controlling blood glucose concentration. Always remember the pancreas and the liver. Blood glucose levels are monitored and controlled by the cells in the pancreas called islets. Now, these are really important. You need to know about islets. Islets detect the rise and fall in glucose concentration in the blood. The pancreas produce and release different hormones depending on the blood glucose level. Now, which hormones are they talking about? They're talking about insulin. They are also talking about glucagon. Yeah. The hormone insulin is released when the blood glucose concentration or blood glucose levels are high. So blood glucose levels are high. And glucagon is released when the blood glucose levels are low. These hormones help the liver to control the amount of glucose in the blood. So what happens is that whenever the islets detect a rise in the blood glucose level, they release the insulin. The insulin help in stabilizing the blood glucose levels. The same with glucagon. When they detect that the blood glucose level is very low, glucagon is released to stabilize the blood glucose levels. Glucoregulation, controlling high glucose concentration. So if the glucose concentration is high in the blood, the islets would first what detect this and secrete insulin in the blood, okay? When insulin reaches the liver, it causes the liver to absorb glucose from the blood. This is key. Some is converted into glycogen and stored in the liver. Some is used for respiration. This will decrease the blood glucose and normalize it. Yeah, so basically what this was saying is that as your glucose concentration goes up, the specialized cells, the islets, would detect that, and then because the glucose concentration is high, it will release insulin. What insulin will do is that once it reaches the liver, it will cause the liver to absorb that glucose in the blood and convert it into glycogen. Glycogen is insoluble, that's why it will not flow with the blood, but glucose is soluble, that's why it flows in the blood. Once this is converted into glycogen, the some of the glucose will also be used for respiration because respiration is what? It is C6H12O6 plus O2 giving us H6H2O plus 6CO2, right? So that's why the glucose is used. And once this happens, it will decrease the blood glucose concentration in the blood. Now, the exact opposite happens for controlling the low glucose concentration. What happens is once the glucose concentration goes down, the islets detect this. In islets in the pancreas, remember islets are in the pancreas, they detect this and secrete glucagon. Now, this time they are not secreting, just a second, they are not secreting insulin. This time they're secreting glucagon. Now, once the glucagon reaches the liver, it causes the liver cells to break down the glycogen. Now, where is the glycogen coming from? The glycogen is coming from when there was high glucose concentration and the insulin was produced and then it was converted to glycogen. So now the glucagon will come and break down the glycogen into glucose again so that it will flow in the blood and increase the glucose concentration to stabilize it. So now you must get it in the flow, like understand the concept, don't memorize it. Because if you try and memorize it, you'll probably forget very easily. But once you try and understand it, you easily get it, right? Then we have thermoregulation because we said we'll be looking at two regulations in this video, which was thermoregulation and glucoregulation. So we are done with glucoregulation. Yeah. So in thermoregulation, the skin is the organ that helps in controlling body temperature. Some animals, including ourselves, are very good at controlling their body temperature. They can keep their temperature almost constant, even though the temperature of the environment changes. This has great advantages. If the internal body temperature can be kept at around 37 degrees Celsius, enzymes can work very effectively because 37 degrees Celsius of the body temperature is like the optimum temperature for enzymes in the body to work very effectively. Metabolism can keep going even when it's cold outside. In cold weather or at night, the animal can be active when other animals are too cold to move because thermoregulation will help us maintain this 37 degrees Celsius. So the 37 degrees Celsius is not really changing, right? That's why even if it's cold outside, the body will do some things that will bring the temperature back to 37 to continue the metabolism that's happening in the body. Now you need to know the structure of the hair so the no sorry not the structure of the hair, sorry, structure of the skin. So the skin is covered with a layer of dead cell. Okay, now note that what I'm going to say now is not in the notes that I've put here. I'm going to be saying this out of my head. So like you see the skin, right? It's covered with a layer of dead cells, which forms like a tough and impermeable barrier. So because of this, it doesn't allow other harmful particles to enter the body. Then the function is that the covered layer prevents water from evaporating the living cells below. So you see the cells inside, they also evaporate water. So the skin prevents the water from evaporating outside the body. Then we have our sweat glands over here. Just a second. We have our sweat glands over here. Underneath the protective layer, many different types of tissue, living tissues are present called the sweat glands. The sweat glands are used to extract water and ions. So water and ions from the blood and produce the liquid that we call sweat. So sweat is made up of what? Water and ions. Then the sweat travels up to the sweat duct. This is the sweat duct to the skin surface and is released to the pore. So this is the sweat pore through which the sweat is released. We'll look at when sweat is released and all. So don't stress yourself. Then we have the blood vessels. Arterioles bring oxygenated blood to the skin. These divide to form capillaries, which take blood up to the just below the skin surface before joining together again to form venules. Now, when we look at the past chapters we have done, I think transport and humans or so, we know that we have arteries like this that form arterioles and then they form, let me use this color, capillaries, right? Oh no, capillaries are supposed to be this clear. I don't think you can see. Okay, yeah. Capillaries like this then this capillaries also join and form venules, and then this venules form veins. So now over here you can see that we have our artery bringing in the oxygenated blood, then to right near the surface of the skin, and then the venules take the deoxygenated blood. That's what they were saying. Then we have the hair. This hair. The hair insulates the body against cold by conserving the heat, conserving the body heat. Each hair has a tiny muscle attached to it called the hair erector muscle. So this is where, oops, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Yeah, this is the hair erector muscle, which pulls or contracts to straighten the hair. Now, also, we must know that we have three receptor cells. Just a second, let me clear this. Let me take. We have three receptor cells. Oops. We have the temperature receptor, the sensory not the sensory neuron, sorry, the pressure receptor, and the temperature, pressure, and oh shit, I'm coming. Let me remember the other one. Sorry, yeah, the sensory neuron. I just remembered it. So the temperature detects like the change in temperature. The sensory detects any changes in the surrounding. And the pressure receptor, it's a bit inside the skin. Remember that? It detects the pressure. Like once you pinch someone, then you feel the pressure, right? That's what it's talking about. Then we have the hypothalamus. This is really important. It is part of the brain. The part of the brain called hypothalamus is at the center of this control mechanism that keeps the internal temperature constant. The hypothalamus coordinates the activities of the parts of the body that help keep the temperature of the body or temperature of the blood at its set point. It acts like a thermostat. Contains temperature receptors that sense the temperature of the blood running through it. If the temperature of the blood is below or above 37 degrees Celsius, then the hypothalamus sends an electrical impulse along nerves to the parts of the body which have the function of regulating your body temperature. So basically, the hypothalamus acts like the eyelids, right? Eyelids. Yeah. Then hypothalamus temperature sensors and skin temperature receptors. Yeah. So when you talk about thermoregulation, right? Thermoregulation, we have two types of sensors. The hypothalamus, and then we have our skin surface receptors. The skin surface receptors sense the temperature of the air and water around us, while the hypothalamus senses the temperature of the blood. So now, yeah, I'm sorry guys, my battery just went down, so I had to charge it and that paused the video. Really sorry. So where were we? Now this skin surface temperature receptors in the hypothalamus give us an early warning that the body temperature is going to change. It might go above or below. For example, if the receptor in the skin detects a very low temperature around us, it will suggest that the body might be able to lose a lot of heat, making the body temperature fall. The receptor then sends the electrical impulse that helps to prevent this from happening even before the temperature of the blood has changed, right? Then controlling the fall in temperature and controlling the rise in temperature. Well, basically, when the temperature goes down, when the temperature falls, the hypothalamus receptors sense the fall in heat. The muscle starts contracting faster, metabolism increases, hair stands up, then we have vasoconstriction and sweat glands reduce secretion. Now you must be wondering, what is vasoconstriction? It is basically the arterioles that supply the blood capillaries near to the surface of the skin becoming narrower or constricted as a result of the muscle contraction. So muscles in the part of the body contract and relax very quickly in the process called shivering. Shivering. When the muscles in the body contract and relax very fast. That's what causes the shivering, yeah? Energy comes from respiration and same energy is released as heat for the shivering. The heat is distributed all over the body as blood flows through it, right? Then we have controlling rise in temperature. Hypothalamus receptor sense the rise in heat, the hair lies flat, and then we have vasodilation and sweat production. Vasodilation is basically the arterioles near the surface of the skin getting wider or dilated as a result of muscle relaxation. More blood flows through it and heat is lost really. So the sweat production. The sweat glands produce more sweat which lies on the surface of the hot skin. Then the water on the skin evaporates, taking the heat away from the skin. The muscle contract less and metabolism also slows down. And I know I'm not being able to like explain this topic very effectively and nicely. I'll try and make another video separately on this part because I personally don't have a proper understanding of it, but I'll definitely make another video only for this part. Then we'll look at diabetes, which is part of homeostasis chapter. We'll look at it in the next part, and that'll be all. Thank you very much for watching. This video has been quite long, typically not how long it's supposed to be, I guess. But thank you very much for watching. See you in the next video. Like, share, and subscribe.